This video is brought to you and therefore funded by Incogni. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they are providing to the entire upper echelon community, and please keep in mind that projects like this aren't free and sponsors are the only reason I can even do them. If you have any genuine interest in their product, please use the link down below. Today's video is just a portion of what has become a much broader investigation, but for right now, it feels like the proper way to cover things. Long story short, I have been working on creating a fake identity online for social media, which includes AI-generated activity, photos, voice, and even video. The original purpose is to demonstrate my proposed inflection point where nothing you see online ever can be trusted, which is a horrifying prospect that rapidly approaches every single day as we make strides in AI content generation that we are holistically unprepared for as a nation or even a species. Suffice it to say, I'm an AI pessimist, if you will, right now, but the scope of my social experiment rapidly expanded beyond the simple prospect of manufacturing a digital persona, despite that angle being very much successful and yielding extremely interesting results so far. What started as a web of social media purchases, which I'll detail in just a minute, turned into an examination of what might actually be one of the largest bot networks on all of Twitter, with an entire underground ecosystem and economy of compromised account resale, botted metrics, and thousands of online people, businesses, rappers, B and C tier celebrities or actors, minor political figures, news agency impersonators, and more, which are either built on compromised profiles, botted in totality by the network I specifically am tracking, verified by Twitter Blue, some of them, yet seem to be falsified completely, or some other form of very obvious inauthentic activity. Basically, I started by trying to prove that AI is now a threat to the online world because it can seamlessly craft fake identities, and I ended by creating research burner accounts to track a bot network 2 layers down through mutual followers, and uncovered the largest continuous example of underground social media activity that I've ever seen. Let's dive in. It all started with an idea. Take the newly exploding image generation capabilities of AI and craft a persona. My theory was that if done properly, I could create a person, generate images of that person, create social media for them, even use their voice if necessary through a program called 11 Labs, purchase bot traffic for those profiles in order to create a sense of authority and legitimacy, and trick the world into believing that I was real, allowing for a spectacular reveal later down the line if it was successful. That video is still possible. Actually, it's likely to happen in the future owing to relative success, but contrary to my initial plan, I started to get knocked off track pretty quickly. Let me explain. The very first thing I did was come up with a name. An inside joke even, because if my ultimate intention was to go public with all this, I had to make it at least slightly entertaining. Here's what I came up with. Cynthia Talbot. Synth bot. Cynthia Talbot was an aspiring marketing executive. She was a former model who had had her accounts compromised, and all her photos were to be generated using a platform called Deep Agency. I won't lie, this was actually kind of painful. It's a great service, it really is, but it takes time to sit there generating and regenerating images of a synthetic blonde woman who needs to have plausibly similar facial features and bone structure in order to pass, but here's what I came up with. I haven't used all of these so far. I could do a few more finishing touch edits in Photoshop if I needed to. Not anymore, I guess. This particular identity is now burned by making it public when I think about it. But after a couple lengthy sessions, I was able to create a library of what seemed to be authentic looking photographs that might pass for a real person. Successful. Next, I had to get the accounts up and running. First was Gmail to tie everything to as a central hub, then came Facebook, but I wanted to add a little bit more impact, so I took to the internet and started to scout for buyable social media accounts with large pre-existing followings. This is where one could argue that I was engaging with an unethical system, and that would most likely be true, but for a side project of mine, as I conclude this particular version of my social experiment, I'll be making it a personal project to get the accounts returned to their original owners. I don't even know if that's possible. I have no idea how or who to contact at Microsoft, Twitter, and Facebook to do this, but I'm working on it. Sponsor time. Online security and privacy protection needs an extremely proactive approach. Every day, your data is being sold by third-party brokers or accessed without your knowledge in data breaches. To be perfectly honest, for some people, there's basically nothing you can do about this owing to the sheer number of places you're willing to post your personal information without concern. But for anyone who wants to prevent that kind of thing, today's video sponsor can help. Companies maintain a lot of your personal information in their records, and not just the ones you know about or deliberately signed up for, but other data firms as well, who then sell it all across the internet. For everyday users, it's a nearly impossible task to take any sort of action because there are hundreds of these data brokers, and it's a lengthy process to contact them all, fight objections, and get your data removed. However, Incogni does all of this for you quickly and easily. The process is extremely simple. Sign up for the website, give them specific legal permission to work on your behalf in this particular capacity, and let them know what kind of information they will be having removed. I did this myself. I have personally used the service, as I do with all my sponsors, and I stand by the results. Plus, it is a service created by a long-standing channel partner called Surfshark. The first 100 people to click the link down below in the description and use code Echelon at checkout will get 60% off their subscription to Incogni. Again, link down below and promo code Echelon for the first 100 viewers who use it to get 60% off their subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. Anyway, back on task. As I browsed, I started to find that there was absolutely no shortage of offers. In fact, there were dozens of sites, thousands of sellers, probably millions of accounts, and I could basically pick and choose what I wanted, and theoretically, I could choose how it was crafted. I'm not going to advertise the specific websites that I used. I think ethically I should avoid the prospect of this becoming an actual guide on how to do this stuff because it's prevalent enough already without me making it worse, even though it's not exactly hard and you could be up and running in about 45 minutes-ish if you wanted to, but I used 4 different websites. There were 3 vendors and 1 metric service that I engaged with, and obviously before doing so, I emulated my payment details through a service called Privacy, which basically lets you use burner credit cards of sorts or debit cards that are tied into your real bank account to protect your information. For obvious reasons, I would never be using my actual credit cards to engage with a project like this. Through these vendors, some purchases were better, some were worse, of course. I managed to buy 1 Twitter account with a little over 60,000 followers at the time, 1 Instagram account with a little over, I think, 100,000 followers, and then another Twitter account with about 40,000 followers this time. But that one had a few issues and was a freshly compromised account where someone had been actively using the email address until just a couple days prior. So obviously I was never going to use that, and I'm just trying to get that returned to the person who originally owned it. Long story short, in order to get the first 2 accounts, I had to VPN myself somewhere else, log into my now useless burner account on Binance, the crypto exchange, from right when Binance first got started, send them some of my random shitcoins that I no longer care about to one of the vendors in what effectively amounted to a trust trade, which he did honor, by the way, and then get the credentials back, which came complete with the social media login credentials, as well as the backup email credentials. They did technically provide an escrow service of sorts, but since I was just getting rid of all my wiped out crypto from like 6 or 7 years ago, that's right, crypto bros, I was into Bitcoin since long before any of you even knew what it was. I survived Gox without losing any of my money. I was in it before Binance and FTX even existed. So don't start with me on how misunderstood and great crypto is or how it fixes all the TradFi problems, because it doesn't. It now is one of the systemic problems, and the entire community should be completely ashamed of what they have allowed their beloved industry to become. Sorry, a bit of a rant there, but honestly it's necessary to call them out. Where was I? So, after VPNing my ass all over the world, getting details, setting up accounts, changing credentials, you name it, I was ready to start my foray into the digital project of babysitting a social media identity of sorts that was completely generated by AI. This is where I need to do a bit of a short summary because the long form would be its own entire video. It is a video I am intending to make in the future, but for right now, it goes a little bit like this. Facebook, unexpectedly, is by far the best platform when it comes to moderating inauthentic or bot behavior and flagging fake accounts. By far, it's not even close. However, that's a double-edged sword. Within hours of creating my account and populating it with AI-generated photos, even just a few of them, I was receiving messages from real men who thought I was real and were asking me how I was or how we might get to know each other or shit like that. That was a shock because you wouldn't catch me dead messaging a profile that was created that very same day, filled out all the info within 2 hours, had 0 friends and 3 pictures that at the time weren't even the best ones I managed to generate and had multiple glaringly obvious flaws. In essence, the virality and prevalence of romance scamming facilitated by AI and fake pictures that are crafted with language output algorithms or whatever it is about to go parabolic. Romance scams, or shazupan as they're called, also known as the pig butchering, is predominantly located in Asia and requires crime syndicates to spend exorbitant amounts of money on actual photo shoots with real girls who travel to different areas and craft stylized identities to target specific victims. There are even training manuals on this, or script manuals, detailed manuals that provide a dedicated structure to a purpose-driven workforce as they approach, trick, and then destroy their victims all around the world. It's an industry. With AI, The relative cost, right? Instead of costing thousands of dollars to do photo shoots with girls and ship them around the world so you can get photos in front of landmarks, like there's some pretty dedicated stuff that they do. But right now, facilitated by AI, the cost is falling to roughly $20 a month, where anyone can do it. They can craft a fake persona with photorealistic detail if they know how to prompt the AI. Brace yourselves. From what I found, Facebook is ground zero for that. Within hours, messages started popping up, and I can't actually show any of this right now because, like I said, Facebook, though anything but perfect, is by far the best social media platform at identifying and preventing impersonators or bot activity. I was suspended within a week on that account, where government-issued ID verification was needed to unlock the account, and every further account I made with the same credentials as Cynthia Talbot. Even if I used my VPN and other email addresses and things like that, and made moderate efforts to circumvent it. Obviously, I probably could have tried to fake a license or a government-issued ID, but that's just not a line I'm willing to cross, obviously. So that was a dead end. As soon as Facebook really had me nailed down and wasn't allowing me to make a fake AI profile, I was kind of stuck when it came to that particular platform. Now, part of why that happened is probably my own fault. As I started to get messages from random men, I would reply to them with a standard response. Something like, "This account is being run as a social experiment." It was like really clean cut. And I find myself wondering if that made some of them report me. Maybe they filed a complaint that I was fake because they had messaged a brand new profile and it turned out to be a journalist experiment, which is probably embarrassing for them. But honestly, I'll probably never know precisely what happened. It is what it is. The point is, Facebook is the best at sniffing out bot activity and preventing it so far from my research, with their heavy focus on tying people to their real names. For better or for worse, that's up to you. But it's also ground zero for romance scamming, and it was very clear that with maybe a couple weeks, I could easily, very easily, have had victims on the hook with nothing other than AI-generated images and maybe some voice. Still, that was just the beginning. Next, I began cultivating the Twitter account that I had purchased, but this led me to an interesting realization. The Twitter account was completely comprised of botted accounts with fake profiles. This was not organically grown, which I wasn't explicitly led to believe that it would be, but it seemed to insinuate that this was an organically grown, matured, and aged profile, or built over time through TweetDeck or something like that. No, not true. This was a profile that had been scrubbed and then botted to a high number of followers in order to specifically be resold to someone like me. Honestly, I respect the hustle. I knew what I was getting into, but with zero engagement, a follower count dropping by the day as Twitter banned incremental numbers of bots here and there, it wasn't really going to do me much good. Thankfully, I actually was getting traction with AI-generated garbage tweets. I was gaining followers, following other people back, and within the first few days, I could see a decent number of legitimate accounts begin following me. Not small accounts either. The speed and frequency that legitimate accounts would enter my orbit was much faster than anything I could ever have expected or cultivated from an actual fresh account with no prior history on the platform, and I viewed the experiment to be a slow burn, a very, very slow burn, but ultimately it was probably going to be successful. Then, everything changed. I had a realization. This account was obviously botted. There was the evidence right in front of me, of course, undeniably, but how could I explore it? Perusing the follower list, I saw that before a certain point in time, almost every single account was a 0-follower random string of numbers in the username, obvious bot profile, that followed hundreds of other accounts. Idea. What if I made a burner account and followed all of Cynthia Talbot's fake followers? What if I then used that research account as a sort of Geiger counter, if you will, to detect other profiles that had been hacked or stolen, repurposed, botted, then sold, and thus, if it worked, I had a video. This part's very, very important. To engage with these services, I protected myself, and I have no intention of making enemies over this. What I am about to show you is just a slice of the perpetual war between bot networks and social media giants. And while the window stays open, because it is temporarily open now that I've found this way to explore the bot network, and again, it's very temporary. I'm going to be removed from these accounts pretty soon, or I'm going to lose access at any point in time. But while it's there, I want to explore it. I very much want to show the extent of how far this goes and reiterate my point that pretty soon here, nothing, literally nothing you see online or on social media will be trustworthy in the slightest. Not the information, and especially not the people. To properly delve into it, I needed some kind of formula. The simplest thing I came up with was create the burner, follow Cynthia Talbot's followers, and then check how far the botnet goes by exploring the list of other accounts that they follow. Now, ideally, I would do this with all 60-ish thousand of her fake followers to get the best results and the most cross-references and hits, but I started running into a bit of a problem. I would get locked out for hours at a time if I followed too many accounts too fast on Twitter, eventually getting my entire research account locked completely after reaching something like 660 followed accounts with 0 of my own followers. My rudimentary system wasn't going to work at scale, and I wasn't going to spend months on end just checking in and following 5 or 10 accounts every couple hours. But honestly, it didn't matter. 600 accounts was a perfectly fine base level test to use for the video as long as I was smart with my other identifying factors. Here's the basic system I came up with. Let's walk through it very straightforward. This is my research burner account. It's following about 600 people, which are exclusively drawn from the followers of my AI-driven purchased account called Cynthia Talbot now. Those followers are all bots, and I know this because of a specific set of criteria. First, look at the names. Name with long string of numbers, that's 1 point. That's worth 1. Sign of a bot. Next, check the followers and following. If it's following hundreds of people with 0 followers of its own, 2 points. Sign of a bot. Next, I check their tweet activity. Never liked a single thing, retweeted a single thing, or engaged with a single piece of content ever on Twitter in their entire lifespan? 1 point. Sign of a bot. And lastly, date of creation. Within the last 2 months or 3 months, that's 1 point as well. Probably a bot. Overall, profiles must have had at least 3 points, at least, to be assumed as a bot and added to the test pool. Created recently, 0 activity, and 400 followed accounts with no followers of its own, I would assume that's a bot. Name with a massive string of numbers, 0 activity, created last week, I'm assuming that's a bot. You get the idea. It's possible that I have a couple of false positives in here, but it's highly, highly unlikely. And the gist of it is that this is a bot network with tens of thousands of accounts tied to it that is spun up and aimed, in particular, wherever someone out there wants to make individual profiles bigger on command. Cool, 600 bots from the network as a basic sample. What now? Now we take any of these bots and look at the other accounts that it has been told to follow. And this is our target pool of sorts. Unlike the bots themselves, this is a list of people that have verifiably interacted with the bot network or been targeted by it and now have high followers. Example, right here, Hunter Gaylor. Now, to be clear, every single person on this list has interacted with this bot network in one way or another at some point in time. It's just a matter of finding out in what capacity. For Hunter, he has 80,000 followers, over 40 hits on the bot sample, and a creation date of June 2016. Here's how you evaluate the profile, or here at least is my methodology for evaluating all the different profiles that I chose. First, check the earliest available tweets. For Hunter, that's July of 2021. That's a 5-year gap in his activity. Very bad first sign. Next, you check his relative activity. Hunter has 80,000 followers, but gets 1 or 2 interactions on all of his legitimate tweets. Bad sign. And lastly, plugging him into Social Blade, a social tracker of sorts, we can see that Hunter has crazy activity patterns that make absolutely no sense. Bottom line, I can't say for certain if this is a stolen account that was botted and resold. I can't say whether Hunter is real and chose to bot his own account or if someone did it to him, but I can say with absolute certainty that this Wall Street advisor, content host, professional looking guy right here, his social media is 100% fake. That's one example. There are hundreds of individual examples per account spread across tens of thousands of separate profiles in every single sector of Twitter's community. Health and fitness, media, crypto, especially crypto, traditional finance, relationships, sports, fashion, and more. Here's the next guy down, just right underneath whatever his name was, Hunter. Drez.eth. Twitter Blue, verified, 67,000 followers, 0 activity. It's highly likely that this account was compromised, stripped, botted, and is now just sitting there awaiting sale to whatever person wants a fresh out-of-the-box crypto scamming profile that is pre-built to seem authoritative on Twitter. Checking Social Blade, he hasn't even been indexed yet because the credentials probably just got changed recently. For reference, this is what a normal Social Blade profile should look like. This is my now suspended account because I quoted Game of Thrones and said all men must die as a specific commentary on how hilariously botched Twitter's moderation was at the time, and it's a far cry from anything you will find on the follower list of my research account. This was organically grown. This is my account, again, that I organically grew, I know for a fact, over years, and is very, very easy to identify when you have a real account that someone was personally using for, let's say, 7 years and grew it to like 18, 20,000 followers versus an account that got botted. I mean, it's night and day, very distinctly different. Just one problem though. This is where I get bogged down. Collectively, there are thousands of accounts that have been hacked, wiped, botted, and resold to whoever owns them now, where those accounts are pretending to be media outlets, CEOs, analysts, traders, gurus, and more. I could sit here and give examples all day, for hours and hours straight, probably for weeks, but I'll contain it to a few of the more interesting ones. Here's some sort of imposter media company that just sprang up targeting Indonesia. 8-month gap in their history, engaged with the bot network verifiably, impossibly low metrics, freshly wiped on Social Blade. Most likely, hacked, wiped, botted, and purchased to launch a fake company. I could be wrong, but every single conceivable sign points to that being the case. Here's one. Caesar on the Moon, Web3 advocate to the Chinese people, whatever that means, chief technical officer somewhere, Asia head game starter or something, community Polkadot ambassador, and technical advisor. Joined in December of 2015, but history only starts in 2022. 28 hits on our tiny little bot network sample, and freshly wiped credentials so that Social Blade has not indexed it. Most likely, hacked profile, wiped, botted, sold to someone, and here we are with yet another crypto professional who appeared out of nowhere. Here's another one. Tom, an options and futures trader who supposedly joined Twitter in 2011. Multiple hits on the bot sample, 10,000 followers, and supposedly a Twitter veteran from that far back. In reality, the account has no tweet history on it before February of this year, with an absolute torrential downpour of tweets on March 13th in particular. This is most likely to bury the lack of feed content as far as possible so no one actually scrolls back long enough to see it. And if we check Social Blade, it's wiped, again, because the credentials have been changed. Great, another fake financial guy pretending to be real, and definitely some people out there are buying a lot of these fake accounts. Not buying as in purchasing, buying as in following them and thinking that they're real people who are giving actual valuable advice. These are imposters. These are not real people. How about this? Cleopatra Fitzgerald, supposedly a political figure and mayoral candidate, 89 hits on the bot sample. That's pretty high. Supposedly joined in 2011 as well. In actuality, tweet history only goes to 2021, with massive spam on specific days in between, with a Social Blade history only recently indexed, very recently, already losing tens of thousands of followers. Is this the real person? Is it a hacked account? It's definitely a botted account, 100%, with impossible engagement metrics. What is really going on? Here's one that says India's leading English news channel called NewsX. 1 million followers. Joined in 2009. That's an OG. Nope. Impossible metrics, enormous swings in followers to the tune of 400,000 even in a single period, with completely inauthentic patterns. Maybe not a hacked account, maybe repurposed or wiped, or I don't even know, but 1 million followers and it's just transparently botted. And we don't even know if it belongs to the person who... we don't even know if it's a real thing behind this. Another crypto influencer, this time named Ragnar. This guy has hundreds of retweets, probably to bury the fact that his engagement is all sorts of screwed up, and supposedly joined, another one, in 2011. Strange gap in activity, since his first content on the timeline is from July of 2022. A bunch of hits on our botnet sample, which is the lead indicator, and if we check out Social Blade, he's just been systematically losing followers ever since the account got indexed again. Most likely, compromised account, wiped, botted heavily, sold, presto changeo, brand new crypto influencer hits the scene. Better example? This guy, Amir. Twitter Blue verified, over 100 hits on the bot sample, which is a lot. Joined in March of 2022, but there's a 5-month gap between creation date and first tweet activity. Social Blade? Freshly wiped. Not indexed yet, or, sorry, unindexed now because the credentials changed. But this guy has 700,000 followers in less than 1 year with less than 100 interactions per tweet? No. This is basically shooting fish in a barrel. It is blatantly obvious when you look at pretty much any of these accounts that they were hacked, botted, sold, and turned into a social media imposter of sorts. Maybe not all of them. Some of these people merely hired the botting services to give themselves some more followers. But I have collectively found, so far, about 340 accounts, collectively holding tens of millions of fake followers, where most of them are clearly repurposed accounts that no longer belong to the original owners. Doctors, analysts, bankers, actors, rappers, executives, you name it, everyone. Fake companies that have fake products that sprang up out of nowhere. God knows what they will do to you when you try to buy something from them. Fake news agencies. I don't really even have the words because seeing it all laid out right in front of you is kind of sickening. A lot of people believe that they are interacting with legitimate people online. They see high metrics and take that as trustworthy and never dig deeper. But the truth is, we have no idea who we are talking to in the online world ever. No idea, none. Of all social media, and I did run experiments on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then I happen to also be kind of an expert on YouTube now over the years. Twitter is by far, hands down, the worst when it comes to bot activity. I actually had trouble even getting Facebook accounts, fresh ones for sale, but for Twitter, there was a never-ending torrent of high follower profiles popping up for sale every single day of the week. What I've discovered here is just a sample of the bot network behind Twitter, a small sample at that. I believe that there's many other sections and that they compartmentalize it so that it doesn't get banned all at once. But rest assured, there's more, even though I've only seen a sample. I found most of these, and there are so many more examples that I obviously just can't include in the video, just from a couple of the profiles attached to my one research burner account that only followed about 1% of the bots that then follow Cynthia Talbot, right? So I've basically tapped into, I don't know, between 1% and 2% of this bot network, and it's already in the tens of millions of followers and views. So take that for what you will. I mean, if that's 1%, we're talking a billion views and a billion botted followers over the course of all these different accounts. I mean, it's pretty staggering stuff. And I'm not even done going through all of it yet. I don't even know how to catalog this much data. I don't think I have the capability. But the bottom line here is that there's almost certainly hundreds of millions of fake views and followers tied to this one particular network that has industrialized the practice of compromising accounts, wiping them, botting them, and then selling them, specifically on Twitter, to people and companies who want to cut corners or scam their audience. Here I was under the impression that Twitter actually wanted to fix the bot problem, which is absolutely fucking hilarious when you think about Elon Musk talking about fixing the bots on Twitter. Good joke, Elon. In the end, I started out on this journey by spending about $800 in attempting to create an AI-generated profile that fooled people into thinking it was real. That part worked immediately and easily, but ultimately I discovered an even better topic as I explored the now colossal underground ecosystem of account selling and botted engagement. During the creation of this video, I was able to conduct a couple of different interviews with dedicated sellers who actually purvey these accounts or, have them as part of their offering. Some of them offloading hundreds of accounts per week, many times even earning the bulk of their income from selling fresh accounts with no followers. But keep in mind, I had to spoof my payment details, I had to spoof my phone number, and all of my other information just to safely interact with this industry. I do not advise doing this. It's against the terms of service. I'm totally fine if they ban all of my social media accounts. I don't even want to be involved with social media anymore except for YouTube. Like, I want to take my distance from it. But the benefits absolutely do not justify the risk, okay? This is not something anyone should be doing. It's a thing a lot of people do, but don't go treating this as like a tutorial on how to start up a successful alt identity and get a bunch of work or scam a bunch of people in crypto. This is just an analysis of the corrupt, destructive piece of shit platform that is Twitter. However, keep in mind that there is no guarantee on social media that anything you are looking at is real. That's the underlying premise of all of this. The photos can be AI. We've gone into a world where that's possible now. You can have highly targeted photos that are constructed with AI models that look real. They're photorealistic, and you're going to be tricked by this. People are going to be tricked by this. The metrics can all be bots. The comments can be bot networks that are paired with language models like ChatGPT. Now that GPT-4 is out, oh my gosh. So basically, all of it can be fake. The voices can be fake using something like 11 Labs, which is getting better by the day. And the old school accounts on social media from like 2011 or 2013, etc., that are supposed to convey credibility and authenticity, those are part of a massive underground economy that has commercialized the practice of building fake identities with fake followers and then selling them to people for whatever they want to use them for. Be very, very careful. That's it. If you want to support, please check out the links down below. These videos are now requiring some actual investment to make beyond just time on my part, such as consulting from a few people, advice, editing services that I commissioned, account purchases in this case, etc., etc. So hopefully the results are currently positive and the community is down for me to keep going. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you all for watching. There's a few other creators that are linked in the description as well, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Have a nice night.